But then I got assigned to Saudi Arabia. Now we were assigned to Khamis Mushat Air Force Base, a Saudi Air Force base. The British were just pulling out, and I was assigned as a quality assurance officer for a housing project that was being built over there. And I didn't know much about housing construction, but I learned a lot on the job. We were building 300 houses, schools, post offices, roads, shopping centers, everything that an Air Force base would need for the Saudis. I had a lot of Saudi friends. This was up in the mountains, up above where Lehi and his family would have turned up from the Red Sea to come up and over the mountains, about 8,000 feet where we were, and then go across the desert, the empty quarter, to where they eventually built their boat to go, across to the New World. Very beautiful area, lots of fruit trees in the desert, a lot of farming, very different from the rest of Saudi Arabia, which is pretty bleak. So it was a lovely area to be. Beautiful view off the escarpment down 8,000 feet to the Red Sea. We would go snorkeling down at the Red Sea at down at a big cove, which is now a national park. At the time, it was just empty with camels roaming around. It's all built up with summer homes, beach homes and stuff now, shopping centers. It was empty back then with stone houses with thatched roofs and camels running around. It was very different. The road down to the Red Sea was made up of rocks. We had to carry several spare tires because we would lose several tires on every trip. We would get stuck behind camel trains. And now it's a 4-lane freeway through tunnels and stuff, so it's very different. Khamis Mushat means Thursday market in Arabic. And we would go into the market. Our Friday and Saturday, Saturday was on Thursday there, and Friday was the Sabbath. So we had church on Friday, and we'd go into the markets on Thursday. In the market, all of the Bedouins from around the area would come and park their camel trains there and sell stuff in tents. And so we could find all kinds of interesting stuff. I've got some pictures if you ever want to see it. You're not allowed to take pictures of people over there, but in fact we did. We'd sneak a few. And they had gold markets and basket markets, fruit and dates. Most of the dates were from California, it turned out, sold in big bags. Spices, animals, goats, sheep, camels, you name it. A lot of fruit from Egypt, blood oranges and bananas. It was great. I would go and buy lots of fruit, and I would go and buy bread that was sold in, it was fresh right out of a beehive oven. That you'd buy a grocery bag of it for $1, and cheese out of a barrel floating in green slime, camel cheese. Anyway, that's not much about my career, but it was an interesting aspect of my career because Saudi Arabia was just so interesting. Like I said in the other video, the Saudis were very friendly at the time. And I had a bunch of Saudi pilots who were my friends. They would joke about being the 51st state. They had gone to school in America, learned their piloting skills in America, their flight training with the U.S. Air Force. So it was a very different Saudi Arabia at the time. We could travel all over. I had a truck. I could drive all the way up to Mecca, Jeddah, Taif, and we would go on trips up there. It was just a lot of fun. We'd go down to to Najran, down to the Yemen border. All the houses were made out of mud. I'll have to do another video about Arabia. Anyway, we built Air Force bases there, and it was very interesting. And I was baptized there in the Red Sea, right about where Lehi would have camped before they turned across the Arabian Peninsula. After that, and I'll do another one on Arabia sometime with pictures. After building houses in Arabia and surviving all the blasting without nets that threw rocks all over our base, I went back to Utah, built more highways and railroads, wrapped that up. Lived in South Ogden with some friends. Then was assigned to be a traffic engineer with the Military Traffic Management Command in Newport News, Virginia, where I designed highways and gates for bases all over the world, mostly in the U.S. though. So I did a lot of traffic management design and wrote a couple of books on that, which I can show you sometime. Met my wife Anna at church in the choir, and we got married. That's a whole nother story. I guess I better keep this quick because it's been almost 30 minutes already. From there, we were married. I applied to a bunch of railroads and ended up at Southern Pacific Railroad in San Francisco. We lived in Concord, California, and I worked designing or doing economic analysis as an economic analyst in the executive department of Southern Pacific. After doing that for 4 years, we about merged ourselves out of existence. We were about to merge with the Santa Fe. I got an offer from Conrail in Philadelphia, but decided that really what I wanted to do was go and be a psychologist. I read a book called The Road Less Traveled by Scott Peck. I thought, this is really interesting. And I had done counseling with airmen in the Air Force with their family problems and so on. I thought, maybe I should go learn how to really do that for real. So I went to interview at BYU, and they said, there's no chance that you will ever get into this school. But I said, well, what would I need to do to get in? Well, I said, well, you'd need to know a whole lot more about psychology. I'd never taken a psych course. So I said, okay, well, I'll go learn some psychology. And so I read basic psychology books and applied to the program, and they took me. I heard later I was one of their top choices because they had decided they wanted some non-psychology majors in their program. They took me, a pre-business major, and a couple of pre-law guys, and then a bunch of psychology majors. And so they took me, and I actually got in, and so we moved to Provo. And we lived in some apartments on 5th South for a while, and then found a nice little house on 4th South, 4th East. And I got into the doctoral program at BYU, and spent 4 years there. I did programming. First, I was a research assistant with Dr. Bergen for a year, but then I needed something that was more to my style, and so I had done a lot of computer programming at Southern Pacific, so I got a job. I sold myself as a programmer, got a job designing a computer program and a system for the comprehensive clinic there at BYU. So I spent the next 3 years doing that, hired a staff, bought a mini mainframe, and programmed it with my other programming students to have 28 terminals and run the computer records for the comprehensive clinic for psychology, speech therapy, audiology, social work, marriage and family therapy. And so we built that, and it worked. And I went back later, and they said, oh, you're the guy who did it. We've revised the whole system, which was good because I really didn't know much about what I was doing other than database management. But we did build a working system, and they knew my name. I was impressed.